Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, live in the On Purpose Woman magazine and global community Facebook page. I'm Ginny Robertson, one of the hosts of the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. I'm also the founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine and the founder of the On Purpose Woman global community. And I'm here today with my co-host for the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, Kathryn Yarbrough. And I'll be talking with Kathryn about your calling versus your should. I'm really excited to have this conversation, Kathryn.
Me too.
So first, let's talk about you a bit. You have a lot of roles with my company. You help me with a lot of stuff. You support me in a lot of ways. You're the co-host of this talk show. You are the global facilitator of the On Purpose Woman global community, and you are the creative director for the On Purpose Woman magazine, but you also have your own business. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about that?
So my business is the Manifesting Clients Academy, and I inspire and teach coaches, energy workers, healers, and other on-purpose solopreneurs how to manifest clients and grow the business their heart longs for. I do events, programs, I have a membership community, and also I do private sessions. So you can find out more about me at manifestingclientsacademy.com.
Great, thank you. And I highly recommend you go check out Kathryn's website and see what she has to offer, because she's helped me a lot with shifting some things and moving forward and getting unstuck and all of that. So, but we're here to talk about your calling versus your should. How do you define calling? What does that mean to you?
Well, for me at this moment in time, calling is something that comes from someplace other than my conscious mind, if you will. It's an urge, a feeling, it could be a vision. It comes in, a calling for me can come in different ways and different forms. And I believe that it's either my higher self or this great one that we're all a part of. That, and of course, I think, well, you don't know this, but I believe my higher self is more tuned in to this great one that we're all part of than my separate self is. So wherever it's coming from, I feel like callings, at least mine, are urging me to do something, because it's typically about an action, a doing of something, to do something that's going to support me and the greater good of all of existence.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, they're important to listen to and to follow through on. And Ginny, I just think this is exciting to be talking about, because there's something that I've experienced for a long time and I haven't had many conscious conversations about them. I often say, when I'm talking about my clients, I'll point to, I work with people who feel called to do what they do, but I've never really gone more into depth about it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we come up with.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating conversation. And like you, I felt like I've been called a lot of different times in my life, or else it will add to a previous calling. But I don't think I've ever talked about it that much. So I know for me, it's a lot about, it's that nudge or that thing that starts out as kind of an idea, maybe, but yet it's not like a conscious brain thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it becomes urgent at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have to at least take a step and see what's happening. I have to at least take an action and then see what's next. And I don't even know if that's even conscious sometimes.
Well, right. You get aware that I need to take that action. And it's interesting. You know this, but listeners may not. I recently completed a book that's in the process of getting edited and will be published soon. It's called Keep Moving Forward, a guide for the on-purpose solopreneur. And I think I'm talking about callings in this section versus purpose, but that I talk about in it how we have a calling for a certain period of time. It may not last our entire life. And there's a window of fulfillment. So it may come in, let's say, in March of 2000 and last through March of, 2010, or well, that's all past. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like it could last 10 years, it could last 3 months. Callings, it feels like to me, based on my experience, there's that window. So as as we move through that window, we can feel that sense of urgency of take action on this, take action. And then at some point, I think that it's no longer important for us or the world that we do it, and it can fall away. New callings will show up if we didn't take action on it. Now, that feeling when we do take action and fulfill it, that's cool. It's like energy flows and we open up to learning something and moving forward. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And I think for me, often the calling, if I take action and then it's kind of done, like you said, it often has set in place something else so that when the next calling comes, I'm more prepared.
mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like
Sure.
it's leading to something else. It's not just a flat kind of ending. It's
Right, because the
almost
thing is,
always, I think, if not always, leading to something else and something new and all of that. So it's a pretty exciting thing to say yes to.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, because I experience that all of existence is always evolving. So that makes total sense what you're saying, that this thing will evolve to the next thing, to the next thing, if we keep saying yes to it. Hmm.
Yeah. We got the
So,
calling, and then we've got the shoulds.
oh, right, yes.
So where do you think the shoulds start to show up? How do they show up?
Well, for me, a should is like what my brain says I should do. And the example that I want to say here today is that for years, and you know this, Ginny, I've had a vision that popped into my head about me speaking in front of rooms filled with hundreds of people. And when I first got it, I pushed it away. And I would call that a calling at this point, because I've been called to speak. And so after a few years of saying no, I finally said yes. And I have been asking for guidance about what to do with my business, how to grow my business. Now, the should for my business then, and even sometimes now, is that I should do private sessions. I work with on purpose solopreneurs. I could, let me tell you, I could be well off right now. If I had said yes to just doing private sessions years ago, I would have been and would be financially great. But I kept going, well, what's this calling? So I joined Toastmasters. I took trainings on becoming a better speaker. I've learned about becoming a better speaker to fulfill this calling, to be able to step into the vision of me speaking in front of rooms with hundreds of people. And as you know, I've started my own events. And I what's really fascinating to me is about a month ago, approximately, I've been doing events for the last few years in different ways, but I didn't really step into I do events. I didn't step into an identity that said I do events. I didn't say when I introduced myself, I teach on purpose solopreneurs how to manifest clients and grow business they love. And I do that through doing events, programs, and membership in private sessions. I just added events because it wasn't part of my identity. I didn't own me as this person in front of the room because my events were small. I didn't know how to fill them. I still learning how to fill them. But I'm following that calling. It's like little breadcrumbs. And now I'm doing events, and I do events. And lo and behold, a month ago or so, when I finally said yes to that, I've started to do more private sessions. It's like the weirdest thing. And it's like, I want them too. And whereas for years, and Jenny can attest to this, I'd say, I know probably should do private sessions, but I just don't want to. I don't want to. It's not right. I don't want to. And so now there's something about the one that I'm saying yes to, the doing events. It's opening the door for me being good with this other piece that I do really well already. I had to learn this. So callings move us forward, as you're saying. And the shoulds for me are things that I think I should do and can keep me from paying attention to the callings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, first, to respond to what you said about, doing private sessions only versus events versus a mix of everything. What I know about you is that you need the mix. That's probably why just the private sessions would not fulfill everything. But what I also got when I was listening to you speak is that if you're only doing private sessions, your calling is not reaching nearly the number of people that it can.
I
And
know.
calling is really part of that, I think, is to impact as many people as you can with what it is that you know and what you're doing, right?
And I know, and I just want to say, every person's callings and impact is different. For
Mhm.
some reason, hundreds of thousands of people, or get my message out to all those people. You may only need to touch 50. You may need to touch billions.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. So Jenny's pointing to what she's seen in me. And I think you're spot on, Jenny, because when I feel like I'm touching all those people, when I imagine touching all those people, it feels right. And I think that's a characteristic of callings. When we tune into it, it may be scary, it may take work. I have had to learn about doing events and inviting people in, and that's stretching me out of my comfort zone.
Which
But
callings
there,
almost always do, don't they?
I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is that there's a feeling of it's right. And
Mhm.
that when you just said that I'm here to touch, that my message is the what I get now, what I know, what I understand about growing a business your heart longs for, an on-purpose business, it needs to be shared.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's exciting.
it is exciting. And I know for me, the shoulds show up when I am actually stepping into new territory.
Oh,
You
to
know,
kind of hold you back.
kind of hold me back because there's a lot of fear in shoulds, and a lot of rules. And I know some of the shoulds that may show up for me, I don't know if this is true for you, are shoulds that were told to me when I was a kid, even, of how I was supposed to be in the world. And,
Mm.
I don't know if you heard anything, because you took a pretty unconventional path, I think, from a lot of people, even from college on. You did that early, where I towed the line and did the expected things for my first 40 years of my life, pretty much. And so, what did you hear growing up, if anything, that kind of told you that maybe you could do something unconventional? Maybe there weren't as many shoulds. Does my question make sense?
It does. It's an interesting question that you're asking that, and I don't know that that's the case. I think that they might have, the shoulds in my family were about being um, nice. You should treat people certain ways. Um, that you should. It's like you should give presents. You should do, send thank you cards, which is actually a really nice thing. Now that I'm
Yeah.
mature, I get it. But I went through a really strong period in my 20s of rebelling against the shoulds that I learned in my childhood. I pushed them away. They didn't feel good. They felt when I was, because I experienced depression in my teens and 20s, and an aspect of that for me, as I look back, if I can assess it, it had to do with I wasn't listening to what was true to me. So that was the period where I went through releasing all of the shoulds, so that when you met me in my at 40-ish, I had appeared as if I had for years been free from that kind of thing. And it was challenging to release the imposed societal and familial family
Mhm.
messages of who I should be in the world, and part of for me to be healthy and function well, to know me, to trust me. And as we do that, as anybody does that, and as we do spiritual practice, we're able to hear the calling more. I think all of those shoulds, for people who haven't cleared through and done those kind of healing work, like you and I have done a lot of that in personal growth work and spiritual growth, those messages can cover up the calling. It's got a it, it, which is why some people will say they got into an accident, or they got sick or something, and from that woke up to their purpose and or
Mhm.
their calling, because it was so covered over that they couldn't hear it. Whereas as when you release those things, you're able to hear it more and more and more and more, until maybe it's each day maybe we can live by tuning in to what are we being called to do today?
Yeah.
What a
Pretty
daring way to
brave
live.
step, though, don't you think? Takes a bit of bravery to do that. And
Well,
some support around you, some people who are encouraging, and I needed some role models for that because I didn't have any role models for people who weren't doing the correct thing until I was in my early 30s.
mhm,
Everybody was just doing, I felt that anyway. I knew they're out there, but they just weren't in my life, you know.
mhm, right. Yeah, I just watched the movie about Helen Reddy, I Am Woman. And so she was stepping out in the 60s and the 70s. The women were stay-at-home moms, and it's a great. Have you seen it yet? I
No, but it's in
recommend
my Netflix queue though. Yeah.
I recommend it. I was surprised that I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it speaks to what we're talking about, especially with regard to women and the tradition of women, so that younger women now do not have, many of them have not had the same experiences, obviously, that you and I have had, but still, there's still the family, parents want to control their kids, and there's still family issues and
Yeah. Oh,
all
yeah.
that
There's
stuff.
always going to
So,
be something like that. Yeah. I
yeah,
know for me, one of the shoulds that I was just ingrained into me was you should stay married. Marriage is
right.
forever. When you get married, you stay married. And so I ended up leaving my husband at 32. And I think that was the beginning of
Mm,
my rebelling against the shoulds. But another big should was you get a good job with lots of benefits and a great salary, and you move up in the company and you work there for the rest of your life.
mhm, mhm,
Because my father's generation, they could do that. They had that kind of job security, but we didn't. But I didn't want that anyway. And so I think those little, I guess my whole point of saying that is that for anybody listening who's wondering, how do you conquer those shoulds? You do them one at a time.
mhm,
As they come up, you look at it and go, is that true for me?
mhm.
Little shoulds, like you only send Christmas cards to people who send you one. I mean, those were my mother's rules. And, some of them are silly little things, and other ones are huge things that even now, when I went out on my own and I left this benefit laden, great corner office position, my family thought I'd lost my mind. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? You've wasted your education. You've wasted everything because you should have done that.
Mm.
And so it takes, like I said before, a lot of courage, strength, but also it takes a support network, I think, of people who are doing it as well. People around you who are having the courage to go out and go against the status quo. Do you agree with that?
Uh, I definitely think it really supports that. And I've got two things to share. One is a TV show that I recently watched,
Mhm.
and I just actually watched it last week. And for those of you who were listening to us, Jenny and I planned this topic about 6 weeks ago, correct?
Mhm.
Something like that. It's been a while. Well,
Oh,
this
before the
TV
last magazine went out. Yeah.
Yeah. So this TV show is called Manifest. I watched it on Netflix, and it's not manifest like I teach people how to manifest stuff, which was, of course, why I was interested. I was like, oh, let me check this out. I love manifestation, but it's manifest because it's about a group of people who were on a plane, and the plane goes missing for 5 years. Okay, so this is what happens. The plane is missing for 5 years, and the first episode, the plane shows up after 5 years, and the people on the plane had not aged. For them, all that happened is they were flying home to New York. The plane went through a big thunderstorm, and there was a lot of turbulence, and then they got to New York and they landed. But for all of their family members, those people were missing for 5 or 5.5 years, something like
Wow.
that. Right. So it's a really interesting beginning. What happens is that the people, or some of the people on the plane, we don't know if all of them at this point, some of the people have these callings.
That they didn't have before.
They didn't have them before. It starts with one of the main characters is a police detective, and she gets this message that says something like free them. She walks by there's a fence building back there, and these two dogs that are barking really loud, big dogs, and she's getting this message that says free them, free them. She had driven by it early, and then she thought about it at night, and in the middle of the night, I think it was, I don't remember exactly, she goes there and she wants to free these dogs. And then her brother, who was on the plane with her, drives up and he wants to free the dogs. They free the dogs and then find out later that it wasn't the dogs that needed to be freed, but in fact, 2 girls had been kidnapped and were in the back room. And the guy who owned the dogs was the kidnapper. And so throughout this TV show, these people get these callings to do something. And the 2 main characters, the brother and sister, feel like it's the right thing to do. Not everybody feels that way about following the callings, which is interesting.
Well, so you
And
see some people get the calling, but then they don't.
right.
Okay, I really
Yeah.
like to watch that show now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting. It's exciting. Well, I found it exciting. But what was fascinating for me personally in watching this, in response to your question about the sport, so I was like, okay, maybe I really should follow the callings. It was like a confirmation. You know
Mhm.
how art, TV, movies, books teach us something. That's what it felt like for me. It was like, okay, this is true confirmation. It really is a good thing. I agree with the people who say it's a good thing to follow the callings, that it's coming from something bigger than them. And I mean, they don't really know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
There's concern it could be the government, whatever. And but for me, it's like, yeah, trust your callings, Kathryn. Go for it. These are messages from the divine, from beyond, from something bigger. Well, I don't think I think we're all part of it, but we're all connected. So the messages can just be coming in through the field, which is what I think the callings are. And so in response to your question, wherever we get the confirmation, I think it's helpful, because
Mhm.
otherwise we do feel like we're alone. For callings, we can feel like we're crazy.
Yeah. What's been your experience when you didn't heed a call? Do you have
Okay,
it, it could have been because of some shoulds, or it could have been just because you didn't even know why you didn't heed the call, right?
right. Well, so there's that one thing with the speaking that I
Mhm.
kept pushing it away. I kept saying no, no, no. I think personally that just postponed the inevitable. And that call just kept coming. If I had said yes sooner, which I mean, you never know, it may have all gone smoother, easier, quicker. Today, I want to share this with you. I went to one of your meetings, an On Purpose Woman Gathering. By the way, everyone, On Purpose Women Gatherings, we currently have 12. This is my little infomercial for On Purpose Woman Community. We have 12 online gatherings, and we're gonna continue to have 6 or more online gatherings even once COVID is over. So check us out. We're a great community, and I love going to our gatherings. I facilitate too, as Jenny spoke about before, and they're wonderful. They're a great place to hear good things, get to know wonderful women, as well as promote your business. So I haven't been able to go to gatherings on Thursdays because I've had a client doing private sessions on Thursdays, and today is a Thursday. And a couple of days ago, I realized that client didn't have an appointment this week, so I had time, and there was an opportunity to sign up to be a featured member today at the On Purpose Woman Gathering today, this morning. So I signed up because next week, on Monday, I'm doing a Manifesting Clients Challenge in my Facebook group, which is called On Purpose. No, I'm sorry, wrong. It's called Manifesting Solopreneurs. My Facebook group is Manifesting Solopreneurs. But I signed up because I wanted to promote my Manifesting Clients Challenge. And if you're listening to this before June 21st, then come join us for the Manifesting Clients Challenge in the Manifesting Solopreneurs Facebook group. So anyhow, this morning I woke up feeling, hearing, sensing, don't go. You have other things to do. And you know me, I show up for things. I didn't used to. Part of my journey in my 20s is that I would just not show up for things. I had to learn to show up, to follow through. And I learned to show up and follow through because I discovered that I felt bad about myself if I didn't show up and follow through. So this morning, when I'm getting the calling or urge, I'm not sure which, to not go this morning, my should kicked in and said, but Kathryn, you said you're going to go, so you should show up. You should show up so you can promote your challenge. And I went. Now, even right now, I enjoyed my time. The meetings are always great. It was wonderful. And I missed an hour and a half in the time before and the time after to work on stuff that I still haven't gotten to get into the creative space that was wanting to come to me. And so that opportunity is not closed. I'll have later today, I'll have tomorrow, I can still work on it. Yeah, it's hard to know. The other day, Tuesday, I was working on my book. The book, I was finishing the edits on my book, and I wanted to get through it. And there was a different community that I periodically go to their gatherings online, and I got the urge to go. It was saying, go to it, go to it, go to it. I said, no, I don't want to. I want to work on the book. Besides, I'm going to On Purpose on Thursday.
So you didn't go to that one.
And I didn't go to that one.
Yeah.
And I can feel that there was probably about 3 to 5 people who I would have connected with, who probably would have signed up for the challenge. And I don't think anybody today heard it for the first time that would want to go, that hasn't signed up already.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think anyone from today was, signed up. So I mean, and it's never a bad thing to go to an On Purpose meeting,
Right,
but
right.
you hear what I'm saying, and it's like, huh. And was it just my desire to be by myself? I also don't know. I also don't always know what if it's it's really a calling,
Mm-hmm.
or a real or a adept, wanting to not do something in like a situation like today. I don't know. You might have some thoughts for me and for anybody who's listening.
I think you bring up kind of an interesting dilemma, really, in a way, because, because we don't always know. We don't always know if it's of our ego talking, or just wanting to be comfortable, wanting to not put ourselves out, wanting to not have to take a shower, just not wanting to get ready. It could be all kinds of reasons. And do we say yes to that, thinking that it's a calling, and then we blow off our commitment, which is also part of like being a grown up and stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think we just have to, it's trial and error. We listen and we go, okay, that worked, or it didn't work, or I feel fine about it, or I don't feel fine, or, I don't think there's any hard and fast rules for this, because if there were, they would become shoulds, right? There shouldn't be any shoulds for finding your calling and for following your calling, right?
I don't know. I'm considering doing an experiment, Jenny. I wrote this down. What if through July, I just start now, and through July, I follow all urges or callings, every single one of them that comes in. I just go, well,
Maybe just to the end of June.
yeah, no, I'm thinking to myself, well, sometimes I get the urge to get some chocolate, but even that, if it's a real urge, I think a bite or two is fine, because sometimes I can just numb out on it, and that's not the same thing as actually tuned into the actual urge and calling.
Mhm.
Like there's like a higher sense to those. And what if I don't follow through on something that I've committed to? Obviously let someone know if that's the case. I mean, I would show up for anything that's mine, any responsibility that's my responsibility. I'm not going to blow off the On Purpose Woman magazine. I don't think I would be called to. Right?
It's a great point. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think we would be called to blow off something that matters. So I'm curious about committing to this experiment.
Okay, you heard it here, folks. And maybe we'll have to do another interview next time around in July or August or September. We'll have to do an interview and see how that went.
I don't know, because my
Right?
stomach's in knots right now with the idea. So it's
Does it feel like a calling to do this? I don't know.
yeah, no, I don't know either, because it's
Wow.
scaring the bejeebus out of me.
It's really interesting. So,
Mhm.
well, how do people know? Let me see. How do I want to say this? when we don't say either, not even say yes to a calling, we don't even become curious about it, because there are people out there who, keep wondering, why does it keep coming up? Why do I keep thinking it? Why do I keep seeing that? Why do I keep hearing that? Why do people keep telling me that I would be good at that? I'm not interested in that at all. And so they shut the door. They don't even let it be a possibility. What do you think happens over time if it really is their calling? What do you think
Well,
happens with it?
I think a part of them dies.
Yeah.
I think it's, yeah, I mean, like, I am so glad I finally said yes to this speaking vision, because otherwise I would be closing down and closing down and closing down. So the calling opens us up to something, as you said, and then the next thing and the next thing. And if we don't pay attention, something shuts down. And if it's possible for it to happen, and it's important, I think this that we're all part of will kick us in the butt and do, like, do a thing, like I said earlier, accident, illness, those kinds of things. People say, woke them up to this, to make a change. They get fired, people get fired, their husbands go off and have affairs and they get divorced. I mean, those things happen because we were asleep and not paying attention to what's
Yeah.
calling us, because we're being, who we think we should be, versus paying attention and trusting. So that's what I think.
I agree with you on that. And my story, my little short story here about when I left my corporate position, I was 40. I'd made this decision. I turned 40. I'd done a lot of, been 8 years in on doing work on myself, going through a divorce. And I decided the next 40 had to be different because I didn't have words for it necessarily at the time, but I know I lost a little bit of myself every time I walked into that office building.
Uh,
And I would usually have to leave her outside and put on another hat. And I would often forget to pick her back up again. But it felt like my soul was just like in chains or in a cage or something. And
yeah.
I made a decision, to take the job with the seminar company and take a 60% pay cut
Mhm.
because I knew that if I didn't, I don't even know if I knew this totally conscious, but I trusted that if I didn't, it was not going to turn out well. And I cannot imagine who I would be today if I had done 25 more years and retired, and just lived for that cushy retirement. I
Mhm.
can't imagine who she would be, but I don't think she would have gotten that far. I think something
Mhm.
else would have happened. Like you
Mhm.
say, I don't think I
Mhm.
would have ever been allowed to have lived that out because something drastic could have happened or whatever. So it doesn't have to be drastic. I just want everybody watching to know that you don't have to make super big changes immediately
Right,
to say yes to your calling, right? Baby
right.
steps.
Absolutely. Because any little step opens that energy flow.
Mhm.
And it could be to say yes to a course or a training, or it could be to just, if the calling is to write, to get out pen and paper and just start writing. It's really small, and just those little small steps. The best word, the best phrase is the energy flows. And when the energy starts flowing around it, then you're saying yes, and there's a sense of the calling is being fulfilled, it's being worked on to be fulfilled, and a sense of not the urgency dissipates. Yeah, it's, yeah, it just flows. And of course then there's the perseverance if it still keeps knocking on you and you got to expand from a room filled with 5 people to a room filled with 500 people, like me in
Yeah.
my events. But like, how the heck am I going to get there? But if I'm really being called, there's a way, there's a path, and I'm just got to trust it. And I don't know.
Yep. Just keep watching and paying attention.
Mhm.
Because there's this Goethe quote that I wish I had thought of before we got on here because I would have looked it up and gotten it correct. But the gist of it is once we make a decision, kind of like heaven and earth moves to bring,
Mhm.
I'm butchering it, to bring us the right people, the right circumstances, doors open, other doors close. And I so believe that once we are in that flow, once we are really clear, then, oh, I I knew you for, I didn't know you did that. Or somebody right in front of us could be the next person to help us out, but we didn't even know that they could. Have you had that experience a lot?
That is definitely my experience. I often heard, I think I heard that the universe, when we commit 100%, the universe commits with us.
Mhm.
And until we're at 100% commitment, we don't get that total support. So, and I think a little step, we start getting support. So absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, mhm.
Yeah, I believe that the universe always says yes to us. So just notice what you're asking it to say yes to, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So,
mm.
wow. This is juicy conversation. I love this conversation. And is there anything else that you want to touch on about this that I haven't asked you about, or we haven't?
Um, oh yeah, there is a piece here that as I was preparing that might be useful for someone. I've experienced two types of callings. One has to do with purpose, which is a lot of what we've been talking about that I've talked to, especially like vision and, fulfilling the purpose we're here to have. But the other I've experienced is recuperation or healing. And my
Mhm.
example for that is I remember I currently live in Florida, but until it was about 6.5 years ago, something like that, I lived in Maryland. And there was a period, and I'm going to say it was about 3 years, maybe four, where I kept calling, like seeing pictures of the beach, calling up pictures of the beach, those sorts of things, like this deep yearning. And 6.5 years ago, I came down here to Florida. I actually stayed at the beach for a month or two, a couple of times. And then I was able to go on a cruise with my mom and my sister to the Bahamas and that area, and it was a 2-week cruise. I went to 7 different beaches with my sister. We had a great time. I came back from all of that and I no longer had the beach urge. I didn't like I had needed to get away. I had needed the beach recuperation. I needed that. So I think that sometimes the callings that we get are not about the purpose of our life, but about something we need desperately in order to be whole and healthy. So it could be as simple as feeling thirsty as one small little calling, that we need. We need to pay attention to that desire, drink some water, something that will hydrate us, or a desire to get away. And I think we need to pay attention to those kinds of callings as well.
Yes, that is so interesting that you said that because you know that for a number of years, I would go to this beach in North Carolina by myself. I would rent a place, an oceanfront place. I would stay, at first it was 1 week, then I would stay 2, then the next time I would stay 3, and sometimes I would be almost 4 weeks there by myself. And even before COVID, for the last 4 or 5 years, I haven't felt the need to do that. And it was surprising to me. And I realized I'd rather be home,
Mm,
which is interesting. And I think what I needed to do, I needed to get away to figure out how I could have that same experience at home.
mm,
Don and I do this dance really well of our own personal spaces, and we can stay in our own personal spaces forever if we wanted to. You know what I mean? We don't really infringe on that. I mean, come out for meals and stuff, but it's not really quite like that. But you know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't feel like I'm doing anything like wrong. Like I'm not spending time with my husband if I'm in my little sanctuary in my office. And so I think that I needed that time away to get more clear on what I wanted, what I needed, how I was going to do, down the road to set some boundaries for myself. And I hadn't really thought about it that way. But definitely I was feeling, and I was actually thinking about that I would buy something down there and live there part time at one time. And I have no desire to do that anymore. And so but if I hadn't said yes to that piece, I may still be in discontent,
Mhm.
kind of wondering what else is there more? What else is there? I wish I could live at the beach kind of thing. So
Mhm.
sometimes I think when we think we might be giving up on something rather than trying to force it into happening, we could just be complete with it,
Yeah.
you know? And that's a
Mhm.
really nice feeling, actually.
Mhm. Mhm. It is. Yeah.
Cool. Wow. This is a great conversation. Thank you. I think I had a couple of ahas during the conversation. So thank you, Kathryn. Are you complete with all that?
I am complete. I want to invite people if they are Wow, your whole screen just turned blue. That's very
including my
interesting.
face, right? A little bit.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
everything. I wonder what that means. What
Because
is
my
going
walls are already blue, but everything's, even my eyes look blue instead of
Oh,
green.
no, yeah, it just changed back. It just changed back. It was like we had a message from
I have
something.
never seen that happen. That has never happened
I
before.
think we had some angel who does blue came in to share a message with us here. We'll have to find out from the angel queens about what that meant. Or it's just your camera going off weird, like it's going to happen again. Anyway, probably all of the above. So I just want to let people know, if you are an on purpose heart-based solopreneur and you do feel called to do what you do, come hang out with me. Come to my Manifesting Solopreneurs Facebook group. You want to join us for the challenge, the Manifesting Clients Challenge is starting on Monday, the 21st. Great. If you're listening to this down the road, just come over to the group, join us. I've got new things coming up all the time, and I love working with people who feel called to do what they do, because we're doing something that matters, and I want to support you in creating that and bringing it into manifest form as fully as possible so that you get that sense, that feeling of fulfilling your calling. And I have a really great event that's called Get on Your Moving Sidewalk that supports that process. I'll be doing it again in November and December. So check that out on my website, manifestingclientsacademy.com. You can find it under the services and stuff. Get on Your Moving Sidewalk event.
I think what you said there at the end is really important, in that this isn't just about us finding our calling and acting on it for our own benefit. It's that there are people out there who need what you all have. They need what we have. They need us to say yes to this thing that we know we have a gift for, or that we just have a penchant for, that we just dream about, or that we can learn to do some of these things. Because I don't know, I've never run a group before when I started this group.
The
I'd
On
never,
Purpose Woman.
I'd never done a talk before the first time I did a talk. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
always these things, but the world needs us. It especially needs women living their lives and being examples to other women about what's important and how to show up in the world and be bigger and bolder and braver. So thank you everyone for joining us for this Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. I'm Ginny Robertson here with my co-host Kathryn Yarbrough. And I want to let you know that next week, Kathryn is doing our last interview for the month of June. Kathryn, tell everybody what's happening there.
So I'm interviewing Anna. I want to say her last name is Pereira. I may be not saying it right. She is the CEO and founder of the Wellness Universe. And we're going to be talking about what is the Wellness Universe. And if you don't know about it, you're going to find out. So join us and let's find out from Anna about her big vision and her calling, because I know she was called to create the Wellness Universe, and it's a great service for many of us.
Yes, it is. I'm looking forward to that. And we have the July-August issue of On Purpose Woman coming out on July 1st. And there you can see our new list of interviews for the months of July and August. We've already lined up, I think, about 15 interviews for those 2 months. And I'm really excited because we have a lot of new people showing up that haven't been interviewed by us yet. And we've got some people coming back who may have been interviewed a year ago, and they've got new things to say and new stuff to talk about. So you can find the magazine on July 1st on my website, opwgc.com, and it stands for On Purpose Woman Global Community. So it's pretty easy once you realize what it stands for. opwgc.com, and click on magazine. You can read the current issue. Go there now and read the current issue. You can read the back issues. You can see all kinds of information about advertising, writing, being a cover artist. You can also click on calendar and see all of our meetings. There's all kinds of stuff there. So check that out. And if you love this interview and you want to share it with your friends, you'll find it on our YouTube channel probably in the next 48 hours. So you can go over to the On Purpose Woman Global Community on YouTube. Please subscribe and then sign up for notifications, and you'll know when we put our new interviews up. There are already, I would think, more than 50 really inspiring, informative, and fun shows for you to watch on the YouTube channel. So thank you again for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. I'm Ginny Robertson saying, see you next time. Bye, everyone.